Hey there everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today we're wrapping up our review for the Phyrexia All Will Be One set, and we've reached the final core of Phyrexia, and waiting for us to review are the multicolored cards. So we'll just go ahead and jump right into it. There are no commons that are multicolored in Phyrexia, so we'll be just jumping right into it starting with the uncommons. And our first uncommon card is the Bladehold War Whip for one, a red and a white. It's an artifact equipment, and it says 4 Mirrodin. And since this is the first time we've seen the 4 Mirrodin mechanic in this video, I'll just read the rules text real quick. And it says, when this equipment enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 red rebel creature token, then attach this to it. Equip abilities you activate of other equipment costs 1 less to activate, and the equipped creature has double strike. And this equip cost is 3 and a red and a white. Interesting. So this is kind of like the signpost uncommon payoff for the equipment strategy for white and red. And it's only 3 to get out mana value, and it makes a 2/2 creature that essentially has double strike. It's not bad. The equip cost is a little expensive for itself. It's too bad it doesn't give itself that discount, but it does give other equipment a 1 colorless discount. I'm gonna give it a for equipment. I think I'm gonna give it I'll give it a mid rating for limited. It's something you probably could use if you're playing in a dedicated equipment deck. This will be a decent card to use. For constructed, unless you're playing it in Commander, I really don't see it getting too much play in constructed. But in a Commander deck, I could see it doing some good work there. So we'll go mid and low for the Bladehold War Whip. Our next card is Cephalid Sentry for 2, a white and a blue. It's an artifact creature, Phyrexian Squid. Star 5 for the power and toughness, and it has flying. And Cephalid Sentry's power is equal to the number of artifacts you control. So this is, once again, another signpost uncommon for the white-blue color pair strategy, and something you'd see in draft. And its power is attached to the number of artifacts you control. And we did see quite a bit of artifacts and the might creature tokens in white and in blue. So this is kind of a nice payoff for that. 4 to cast. I bet you oftentimes if you built a artifact deck, this will probably be something like oftentimes probably be somewhere between a 4 or 5 creature with flying, something like that. By itself, if it's the only creature on the battlefield on your side, it'd be a 1/5. It does have flying though for 4, and it has pretty good toughness. I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give it a high rating for limited. I think it's something that you could probably build around, and just by itself, just the fact it's a 1/5 flyer, that's pretty good. But you're oftentimes going to have more artifacts available to you, so it'll just get bigger and bigger. I mean, once you start to get in that 3/5 power toughness range, it's going to be pretty decent to have on the battlefield. And I think for constructed, I'll probably go mid. I think you could probably do some pretty good stuff with this, especially in like something like standard right now or something like that, where there's a lot of blood tokens and power stone tokens and treasure tokens, things like that to make it pretty powerful. However, its only main drawback is its mana value cost at 4. This could actually probably do a lot better in Commander, but we'll see how it goes. But I think it's high for limited, mid for constructed for the Cephalid Sentry. Our next card is Charforger for 1, a black and a red. It's a creature, Phyrexian Beast, 2/3 power and toughness. When Charforger enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 red Phyrexian Goblin creature token. And then whenever another creature or artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put an oil counter on Charforger. And then remove 3 oil counters from Charforger. Exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. Not bad. Gives you, for 3 mana, you're going to get a 2/3 creature and a 1/1 creature. So it's combined 3/4 power and toughness. And then you get oil counters on death triggers for creatures or artifacts, and then those oil counters you remove them to exile a card, and you can play it this turn. Not bad. I like it. I'll give it a mid rating for limited. Same for constructed. I think it definitely has its uses, and it's something that could find its way into both formats, both deck types and stuff. Next card is Cinder / Ravager for 4, a red and a green. It's a creature, Phyrexian warrior, 5/5 power and toughness. The spell costs 1 less to cast for each permanent you control with oil counters on it. And it has vigilance. And when Cinder / Ravager enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to each creature your opponents control. I think this is pretty decent for an oil deck. I like that in that sense. And oftentimes you could probably have a couple other permanents, maybe with 1 or 2 oil counters, knocking this cost down to maybe 2 or 3. So you'd probably be able to cast it oftentimes for 4 mana. I'm willing to bet. And it has vigilance, and it deals a point of damage to each creature your opponents control. That's actually a nice little strategy to use against all the mites that are going to be running around. If you're able to get this can neutralize them and kill them all. And any other kind of weak 1 toughness creatures. It's pretty good. I like it. I'm going to give it a high rating. And the reason why is it's something that you can really take advantage of the oil counters with it. And it's going to be pretty abundant in the limited format. For constructed, not something I'm going to see too often. So unless you're playing in a dedicated oil deck, and it's a little pricey if you're not playing oil. So I'll go high for limited, low for constructed. Next card is Necrogen Rot Priest for 2, a black and a green. It's a creature, Phyrexian zombie cleric with a 1/5 power and toughness, has Toxic 2. And whenever a creature you control with Toxic deals combat damage to a player, that player gets an additional poison counter. Wow, that's powerful. And you can pay 1, a black and a green. Target creature you control with Toxic gains Death Touch until end of turn. Yeah, that's pretty solid. So it can give itself Death Touch, and if it when it deals combat damage to a player, they get an additional poison counter, including if this creature deals combat. So it's really Toxic 3 for this creature. Yeah, I like it. I think I'll go high for limited. It really feeds into the poison strategy, and with proliferate and everything else running around, I think this could be pretty powerful. We'll go mid for constructed. It's got enough abilities to utilize that you could probably use it, especially in Commander. This is really where I would see it doing well there. It's just got a lot going on for 4 mana. Toxic 2, your opponents get additional poison counters. This would really go well with all those might tokens, and then plus you can give another creature Death Touch, so that's pretty nice. So we'll go high for limited, mid for constructed. Our next card is Serum Core Chimera for 2, a blue and a red. It's a creature, Phyrexian Chimera, and its power and toughness is 2/4, has flying. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put an oil counter in Serum Core Chimera. Remove 3 oil counters from Serum Core Chimera, draw a card, then you may discard a non-land card. When you discard a card this way, Serum Core Chimera deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker, activate only as a sorcery. So this definitely plays into the oil strategy as well, and the non-creature strategy. And it deals, when you discard that card, it deals 3 damage to a creature or planeswalker. That's pretty solid. Yeah, I like it. It's definitely got that build around feel to it as well. Something you wouldn't mind having in your deck. I think I'm gonna go ahead. I think I'll go ahead and give it a high rating for limited. We'll go mid for constructed. Once again, I think it'll probably shine the most in a commander deck, but still, it's something that you could utilize quite a bit, and it can do all sorts of stuff, especially helping you draw cards and discard a card to deal 3 damage to a creature or planeswalker. The only downside is it can only be used as a sorcery. Other than that, could be pretty scary. So yeah, I think high for limited, mid for constructed. Our next card is Slaughter Singer for 1 green and 1 white. Creature, Phyrexian Cleric, 2/2 power and toughness with Toxic 2. Whenever another creature you control with toxic attacks, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Yeah, that could be pretty powerful. And green and white both seem to really be centered around the toxic strategy when we were going through those cards. And the fact that it's only 2 mana, that's pretty decent. I think I'll go ahead and give it a high rating for limited. And I'll go mid for constructed. I think it's a solid card. Something that could see quite a bit of play. I almost want to go high for constructed, but just depends on how much poison is going to be making it in constructed. But it's a good 2-drop. Yeah, I think that's pretty decent. Strong card. It's going to definitely play into the poison strategy. Our next card is Tainted Observer for 1, a green and a blue. It's a creature, Phyrexian bird, 2/3 power and toughness, has flying and toxic. 1. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 2. If you do, proliferate. Wow, that's pretty decent. Plus it has an evasion ability, and it has toxic, so your opponents are going to get poison counters. I like this for sure. We'll go high for limited. Go mid for constructed as well. Could see some constructed play, but probably not as often as you'll see it in limited. But I think it's pretty solid for limited. And the fact that you can pay 2 to, when it enters the battlefield, to proliferate, that's pretty solid. Our next uncommon is Vivisection Evangelist for 3 and a white and a black. Creature, Phyrexian Cleric, 4/4 power and toughness, with vigilance, and has corrupted. When Vivisection Evangelist enters the battlefield, if an opponent has 3 or more poison counters, destroy target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. So when it enters the battlefield, pretty much destroys a creature or planeswalker, as long as your opponent is corrupted. I think we're going to be able to at least hit that rating, or hit that game state for your opponent fairly often. And this is a 5 mana value card, so it's not going to be something you'll be throwing out right away and onto the battlefield. And usually by the time you're able to cast this, your opponent probably will have corrupted. So I'm going to give it a high rating for limited. I think it's something that can be used pretty efficiently. And for constructed, I give it a mid rating. It's got a decent enough body. It's 4/4. It's something that could be used, especially in a dedicated poison deck. So yeah, we'll go high and then mid for Vivisection Evangelist. And our next uncommon is Voidwing Hybrid for 1 blue and 1 black. It's a creature, Phyrexian bat, 2/1 power and toughness, as flying, and toxic 1. When you proliferate, return Voidwing Hybrid from your graveyard to your hand. Oh, that's cool. So it finds ways to come back. Yeah, it's decent. Got an evasion ability. Can have poison put on your opponents, and whenever you proliferate, you bring it back from your graveyard. A little fragile, and its triggered ability for coming back from the graveyard to your hand does rely on proliferating, and it doesn't proliferate itself, so that is something you have to keep in mind out for. But I think I'll go mid across the board for it, for limited and constructed. It looks like for sure there's a payoff for a proliferate blue-black deck that has toxic. So we've seen quite a few flying creatures that utilize that. So yeah, we'll go mid for Voidwing Hybrid. So we're moving on to the rares now. And our first rare is Azuri, Stalker of Spheres for 2, a blue and a... Sorry, 2, a green and a blue. Legendary creature, Phyrexian Elf Warrior, 3/3 power and toughness. And when Azuri, Stalker of Spheres enters the battlefield, you may pay 3. If you do, proliferate twice. And whenever you proliferate, draw a card. That's pretty powerful. So when it enters the battlefield, you can pay 3 and you get 2 proliferate triggers, which lets you draw 2 cards. Yeah, that's pretty solid. Definitely a really good legendary creature that plays into a lot of the strategies for the set. You know, it pairs really nicely with the green Dominus, Techathal, Inquiry Dominus, that whenever you proliferate twice. So if you proliferate twice with Azuri, and then each time you proliferate, you would proliferate again with Techathal on the battlefield as well. That'd give you 4 proliferate triggers, and then you'd draw 4 cards. And all you had to do is just pay that 3 colorless when he enters the battlefield. So that's pretty solid. I like it. I think there's ways that make this card pretty darn useful. Give it a high rating for limited, and I'm going to do the same thing for constructed. I think there's a lot you can utilize with the card in constructed, build around, and be able to make take advantage of the proliferate triggers. So we'll go high for Azuri, Stalker of Spheres. Next card is Glissa, Sunslayer for 1, a black and a green. It's a legendary creature, Phyrexian zombie elf, 3/3 power and toughness. She has first strike and death touch. Wow, that's powerful. And then whenever Glissa Sunslayer deals combat damage to a player, choose one. You can draw a card and lose 1 life. You can destroy target enchantment, or remove up to 3 counters from target permanent. That's kind of cool because if you're able to deal combat damage from her and you've got poison on you, you can use her to get rid of... oh, actually, it has to be a permanent. Never mind. Still, you can remove counters from a permanent. You can start taking loyalty counters away from planeswalkers, remove oil counters from your opponent's permanents, other kinds of things you can use. Anything that uses counters pretty much on a permanent, you can remove up to 3 counters from a permanent. That's pretty solid. I'm going to give it a high rating for limited, and same thing for constructed. I think it's going to find some good use in both formats. Just the fact that it's a 3/3 death touch first strike for 3, that's decent. I'll play it. Next up is Jor Kadeen, first Gold Warden for a red and white. Legendary creature, human rebel, 2/2 power and toughness with trample. And whenever Jor Kadeen, first Gold Warden attacks, it gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of equipped creatures you control. Then if Jor Kadeen's power is 4 or greater, draw a card. That's pretty good. So it gets a +X/+X bonus when it attacks. And the X is the number of equipped creatures you control. They don't necessarily have to be attacking or anything. And then if its power is 4 or greater, you can draw a card. Yeah, that's pretty decent. Give it a high rating for limited. I think you'll be able to utilize its strategy. Definitely a solid build-around card for the equipment strategy. For constructed, I'm going to give it a mid rating. It's going to be hard to pull off unless you're playing in a dedicated equipment deck. However, in Commander, I think this is worthy of a high rating, and it'll be much easier to get the triggers for it. So, but overall, though, probably just mid. So yeah, we'll go high for limited and mid for constructed for Jor Kadeen, first Gold Warden. Our next rare is Kaito, Dancing Shadow for 2, a blue and a black. It's a legendary planeswalker, Kaito. And whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal, or actually, it has 3 loyalty when it enters the battlefield. So, and its text says, whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you may turn 1 of them to its owner's hand. If you do, you may activate loyalty abilities of Kaito twice this turn rather than only once. And the +1 loyalty is up to 1 target creature can't attack or block until your next turn. That's kind of cool. You pay 0 to draw a card, or you can -2 them to create a 2/2 colorless drone artifact creature token with death touch. And when this creature leaves the battlefield, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So his static ability would actually work pretty well even with his own token. He has a nice, it's a subtle nod to the ninjutsu ability for all the blue-black cards. And this kind of honors that kind of strategy. Pretty solid. That's anytime you're able to utilize Planeswalker's ability twice in a turn, that's always good. I'm going to give it a high rating for limited. I think there's some good things you can do with them, and same thing for constructed. There's plenty of ways to have your creatures deal combat damage to your opponents, either ninjutsu them onto the battlefield or make them unblockable or anything like that, allowing you to utilize his abilities twice. So we'll go high across the board for Kaito. Kaya, Intangible Slayer for 3, 2 white and 2 black. It's a legendary planeswalker, Kaya, with 6 loyalty. That's pretty good. And she has hexproof. Nice. So you can +2 her and her loyalty, and each opponent loses 3 life and you gain 3 life. You can 0 her for her second ability and you draw 2 cards. Then each opponent may scry 1. And you can -3 loyalty for her and exile target creature or enchantment. If it wasn't an aura, create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 1/1 white spirit creature with flying in addition to its other types. Yeah, she's pretty powerful. She's expensive at 7 mana, but I think she's just really solid, really playable. We'll go high for limited, high for constructed again. I think the only thing that keeps her from being epic is her mana value. If she was maybe 1 mana value less, I'd probably give her that rating. But at 7, she's still pretty decent. So we'll go high for Kaya, Intangible Slayer. Next up is Kethic, Crucible Goliath for 2, a black and a red. It's a legendary creature, Phyrexian Beast, 4/4 power and toughness. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non-legendary creature card with lesser mana value. Put it onto the battlefield, then put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So unfortunately, this doesn't get anything for you for sacrificing creature tokens, but you can sacrifice other creatures that you have, reveal cards from the top of your library until you get a non-legendary creature and with lesser mana value, putting it onto the battlefield. So this goes really well with death triggers. I like it. It's kind of like a, in a way, it's kind of like a birthing pod on a stick, but it's an end step death trigger when you sacrifice a creature. Pretty decent. You'd have to build around this to make it good. It is decent at a 4/4 for 4, and I think there might be ways to get the most value out of it by making sure you just have this guy at the close to the top of your curve or at the top of your curve for the creatures you control. I'm going to give it a high rating for limited. I think there's ways you can get some pretty good use out of it. Constructed, probably go mid. Probably not going to be wanting sacrificing a lot of your creatures too often unless it's a build around strategy like that. And the creatures that you put in your deck for constructed are going to be pretty efficient on their own. So you're not going to want them to be leaving the battlefield under your own accord all the time. So see how it goes. But yeah, I feel comfortable with a high rating for limited for Kethic and mid for constructed. Our next rare is Malcator, Purity Overseer for 1, a white and a blue, 1/1 power and toughness. The legendary creature Phyrexian Elephant Wizard. And when Malcator, Purity Overseer enters the battlefield, create a 3/3 colorless Phyrexian artifact creature token. And at the beginning of your end step, if 3 or more artifacts entered the battlefield under your control this turn, create a 3/3 colorless Phyrexian Golem artifact creature token. Yeah, that's pretty solid. There's plenty of ways to get that second ability to trigger, including the same turn that he comes into play, because the Golem he creates is going to be one of those. And then if you can get other artifacts to enter the battlefield, like might tokens or something like that, you can get that last ability to trigger again as well. I like it. I'll give it a high rating for both limited and constructed. I think, especially if you have a dedicated artifact deck, this guy could go nuts. So yeah, let's go high across the board for Malcator. Next card is Melira, the Living Cure for 1 green and 1 white. Legendary creature, Human Scout, 3/3 power and toughness. If you would get 1 or more poison counters instead, you get 1 poison counter, and you can't get additional poison counters this turn. You can also exile Melira, Living Cure, choose another target creature or artifact. When it's put into a graveyard this turn, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. That's nice. She kind of sacrifices herself to protect something else and allow you to bring it back to the battlefield. And it's kind of nice too, because that card would be put into the graveyard, it would come back, and if it has enter the battlefield triggers, those trigger again. And she just really wrecks the poison strategy, limiting it to only 1 poison counter. Pretty solid. And it's a 3/3 for just 2 mana. I'm going to give it a high rating for limited and constructed. I really like what she has to offer. It's just an efficient beat stick with a 3/3 power toughness rate for 2. I think it'll see some pretty good play. So we'll go high for Melira, Living Cure. Next rare is Miglaw's Maze Crusher for 1, a red and a green. It's a legendary creature, Phyrexian Beast, 4/4 power and toughness, and Miglaw's Maze Crusher enters the battlefield with 5 oil counters on it. Wow, that's got to be the most oil counters I've seen enter the battlefield on a permanent. You can pay 1 and remove an oil counter from Migla's. It gains Vigilance and Menace until end of turn. That's solid. You pay 2 and remove 2 oil counters from Migla's. It gets +2/+2 until end of turn. And you can pay 3 and remove 3 oil counters from Migla's to destroy a target artifact or enchantment. That's pretty solid. I bet you most of the time you're going to see the one or the first and the third ability being used the most. Maybe every once in a while you can use its middle ability to boost its power and toughness, but really solid utility creature, being able to destroy artifacts and enchantments. I'm going to give it a high rating for limited and constructed. It's a 4/4 creature for 3. That's really good right off the bat. Plus, you can remove oil counters to give it Vigilance and Menace, and then you can destroy artifacts and enchantments with it. So that's a solid card. Really decent utility beat stick. Our next rare is Ovika Enigma Goliath for 5, a blue and a red. It's a legendary creature, Phyrexia Nightmare, 6/6 power and toughness with flying. It has ward 3 and pay 3 life. Yikes. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create X/1/1 red Phyrexian Goblin creature tokens, where X is the mana value of that spell. They gain haste until end of turn. Wow. Yeah, this is solid. This is actually worthy of an epic rating for limited. I'm actually going to go epic for constructed. Initially, I was thinking maybe high, but the fact that it is 7 to cast. Okay, yeah, that's a little expensive, but it has an evasion ability with flying, 6/6 power and toughness. The ward is pretty steep cost to pay. They have to pay 3 colorless and 3 life, and that's going to get steep for them. And then whenever you cast the non-creature spell, you're spitting out X red Phyrexian Goblin creature tokens. I mean, if you were to cast something like even just a mid-range non-creature spell like a Fable of the Mirror Breaker or something like that, something at 3 or 4 mana, you're spitting out goblin tokens, 3 or 4 of them. So that's really solid. This is definitely a good card. I think it's epic across the board for Ovika Enigma Goliath. Next rare is Rhea Ivor Bane of Bladehold for 2, a white and a black. It's a legendary creature, Phyrexian Knight. It has 3/4 power and toughness with Battlecry. That's an ability we haven't seen probably since the original Scars of Mirrodin block. And Battlecry's rule text says, whenever this creature attacks, each other attacking creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. And her second ability says, at the beginning of combat on your turn, the next time target creature would deal combat damage to one or more players this combat, prevent that damage. If damage is prevented this way, create that many 1/1 colorless Phyrexian Might artifact creature tokens with Toxic 1, and this creature can't block. Wow. So you choose one of you at combat on your turn. You can choose a creature that next time it deals combat damage, instead you prevent that damage and it deals and it creates that many might tokens. So this card doesn't necessarily have to attack either to use that second ability. However, it does have to attack to utilize the Battlecry ability. So that's kind of nice. Yeah, that's pretty solid. I'm gonna give it a high rating for limited, and probably go mid for constructed. I think there are other things that might be better at the 4 mana slot, but it's still pretty decent. If you're playing it in a commander deck or a dedicated poison might deck, this might work. That seems to be the strategy for white and black for the set, is creating toxic creatures with might that are mites and things like that. So I want to see how it plays out before I would change my rating, but I think for now we'll go mid for constructed and high for limited. Our next rare is Tivar, Jubilant Brawler for 1, a black and a green. Legendary Planeswalker Tivar has 3 loyalty, and its static ability says you may activate abilities of creatures you control as though those creatures had haste. Not bad. And then you can +1 loyalty to untap up to 1 target creature, or you can -2 loyalty to mill 3 cards. Then you may return a creature card with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Not bad, pretty solid. It's only 3 mana for a 3 loyalty planeswalker. and you can activate abilities of creatures as though they had haste. You know, that's actually pretty decent, especially for something like one of the things about in standard, the Fibble, the Mirror Breaker, once it transforms into the Goblin enchantment creature, you have to wait a turn before you can use its activated ability and start copying other creatures. So with him on the battlefield, you could actually do that right away as soon as it transforms. So really solid, pretty decent. I'm going to give it a high rating for limited. I think there's good uses for all of his abilities. And when you mill the cards, if you build your deck right, you can bring back creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield right away. So pretty solid card for 3 mana for Chivar Planeswalker. Our next card is Venser, Corpse Puppet, for 1 blue and 1 black. It's a legendary creature, Phyrexian zombie wizard, 1/3 power and toughness with lifelink and toxic, and whenever you proliferate, choose one. If you don't control a creature named the Hollow Sentinel, create the Hollow Sentinel, a legendary 3/3 colorless Phyrexian Golem artifact creature token. Or you can have target artifact creature you control gains flying and lifelink until end of turn. Yeah, that's pretty solid. And from what I've seen, it looks like you're going to be able to proliferate quite a bit in this set, especially in the color pair of blue and black. The fact that it has lifelink and toxic, that's solid as well. And then you also get a Golem creature token out of it. Looks pretty brutal for what the Phyrexians did to Venser. Horrible way to go. Now he's just a puppet for their agenda. Give it a high rating for limited. I like it. I think it's solid, and I think it could have some pretty good play in constructed as well. We'll go high for that format as well. Venser Corpse Puppet. It'll be interesting to see how it does. So now we're moving on to the Mythic Rares. We are really in the home stretch, the last distance to go before we wrap up the set here. And our first Mythic is Atraxa, Grand Unifier, for 3, a green, a white, a blue, and a black. It's a legendary creature, Phyrexian Angel, 7/7 power and toughness, with flying, vigilance, death touch, lifelink. And it says, when Atraxa, Grand Unifier enters the battlefield, reveal the top 10 cards of your library. For each card type, you may put a card of that type from among the revealed cards into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. And the card types are Artifact, Battle, Creature, Enchantment, Instant, Land, Planeswalker, and Sorcery are card types. Interesting, there's a new card type in there called Battle. It hasn't been revealed in this set, but it'll be interesting to see what that could be. So that was a little bit of a mystery there, and can't wait to see what that is. But overall, it's going to be tough to get this card out in limited. You're going to have a lot of fixing to make it happen. But if you do, you get a 7/7 creature that when it enters the battlefield, you can look at the top 10 cards of your library and put one of each card type into your hand. And that's flying, vigilance, death touch, lifelink. That's really solid. For limited, I'm going to give it a mid rating. The only reason is because it's just going to be so hard to get out onto the battlefield. 4 different mana requirements, different colored mana requirements. However, for constructed, I think it's solid, and I think it'll definitely see some play in constructed. Of course, especially commander. I mean, it'll be one of the commanders for your deck. So really, really decent card. It is 7 mana to cast. That's a downside of it, but that's just the way it is for it's with what it does. Give it a high rating for constructed. I like it. I think it'll see most of its play in commander. Maybe make some appearances in some other formats, but commander could really shine. Powerful card if you can get it out onto the battlefield. So we'll go mid for limited, high for constructed. Our next mythic is Luca, Bound to Ruin, for 2, a red Phyrexian hybrid mana of red or green, and then green mana. A legendary planeswalker, Luca, for 5 loyalty, and it's a completed planeswalker, and it looks like he had a pretty rough day when he was completed. So the Phyrexian hybrid mana can be paid with red, green, or 2 life. If life was paid, this planeswalker enters with 2 fewer loyalty counters. And its loyalty abilities are, the first one is +1, can add red and a green, spend this mana only to cast creature spells or activate abilities for creatures. And then its -1 loyalty is create a 3/3 green Phyrexian beast creature token with Toxic 1. And its last ability, -4 loyalty, is Luca deals X damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures and or planeswalkers, where X is the greatest power among creatures you can control as you activated this ability. I think, yeah, he's definitely designed to be placed in a creature aggro deck, heavy creature oriented strategy. And I think he will do some work. Pretty solid. I'm going to give him a high rating for both limited and constructed. I think he's a solid planeswalker. If you get enough big enough creatures and he has enough loyalty, you can start wiping the board with him too, with shooting and killing creatures by him dealing damage. The neat thing is the X damage that you deal from his last ability can be divided, so it's not a single target. You could actually take out multiple creatures with it. Yeah, I think we'll stay at high for Luca. I was thinking about epic, but he's right on that line between high and epic, so we'll stay at high. Next card is Nahiri, the Unforgiving. For one red, hybrid red or white mana, and then white mana. Legendary Planeswalker Nahiri, 5 loyalty, and she is completed as well. And her first loyalty ability is until your next turn, up to 1 target creature attacks a player each combat if able. You can also +1 her for her second ability to discard a card and then draw a card, or you can use her last ability, which is 0, and exile target creature or equipment card with mana value less than Nahiri's loyalty from your graveyard, and then you can create a token that's a copy of it. That token gains haste, exile it at the beginning of the next end step. So it can force a creature to attack, and Commander, this can be pretty good. You could force it to one creature to attack another player each combat if able. You can +1 it. Actually, for the first ability, let's reread that. Until your next turn, up to 1 target creature attacks a player each combat if able. So it's the creature you could force to attack. It looks like the controller of that creature would probably choose the player. And then it rummages for its second ability, and then you can make token copies of creatures or equipment from a graveyard, from your graveyard. She's not bad. I think some of the other planeswalkers we've seen are better, but she could have some good uses. I'm kind of torn. I could be wrong, but I think I'm just going to give her a mid rating across the board for Nahiri, the Unforgiving. She's right on that line between mid and high, but she does have a high loyalty, but it just really depends. I think she can mess up combat quite a bit, but don't know how powerful that's going to be and how often that's going to happen. And you have to have dedicated equipment or creatures to really get creatures in your graveyard to get the most use out of her. So I think we'll go mid for Nahiri, limited and constructed, but we'll see how she plays out as the format plays. So that is it for the Mythic Rares and for the multi-code cards, and actually for all the cards all together for Phyrexia, all will be one. Pretty cool looking set. Really nasty looking cards for the entire plane. And it just seems like anything you encounter on the sphere of Phyrexia, you're going to get poked, infected, or become completed, or, taken over, or something horrible. So it's pretty rough for the good guys that are visiting Phyrexia. But so that'll do it for the full series for the set review for Phyrexia All Will Be One. Next up, we'll be getting into the actual gameplay for the new set. As at the time of this recording, we're actually only about a day away from being able to play it on Arena. So that'll be fun. And that's what it'll be. The next video coming up will be game action featuring Phyrexia All Will Be One. But that'll do it for this video. If you like the videos, go ahead and subscribe to my channel, MTG Rogue Players on YouTube. Hit that like button if you like the video, leave a comment, and you'll get notified the next time a video is posted. So until then, everybody, hope you enjoyed watching, and we will see you next time. Take care.